Hey everybody, it's Rory from A&S Gear, and we're going to look at an accessory for your T15 from Tiberius today. So this is the T15 ASA kit with stock, or ASA adapter with stock. So this is a kit that you can get if you do not like having a small tank in your stock right here. You can get an adapter kit that goes onto the bottom here, and you can put any size tank that you want on there. You want to run a 68 cubic inch tank on there? Great. 45? Great. Whatever you want to put on there? Great. These are the parts here to do it. This is a gun. We're going to take one off and we're going to give you a basic show of how to put it together. So I've got my parts laid out here. You have your new ASA, which is going to go at the bottom. The screw that goes through the ASA to lock it all together. The transfer tube, so your air can get from the tank to the guts of the gun. The new stock. The plug for where the old barrel or old tank went in. The barrel ring. The buffer tube. The new grip, because you need to have a new grip. And this screw is extra right here. You can use the one that is on the gun to begin with, or you could use the new one right here. Either way, it's up to you. I've got some parts over here. We'll talk about this in a second, because I need a screw out of there to get a part out, and I'll show you why. So here's our gun set up right here. We're going to pull a bunch of stuff off real quick, just to make it accessible to put new stuff in. So we'll get the mag out of there. We're going to remove this stock off. We're going to remove the guide rod out of the way. So right here, we're going to just unscrew this. Take that out. Set it over here. We're going to unscrew our tank. Set it out of the way. And that leaves us with our ASA adapter, basically, the original one for our tank back here. And our grip. So we're going to take the grip off. First, I've kind of loosened that screw up a little bit already. Some of them can be pretty tight to get off of there. If you have a T-handle Allen key, it makes it a lot easier. And when I pull this off, there is a spring that we want to be careful of, because you will need it when you put the new grip back on, but we don't want to lose it. And that spring, it sits right here. You can actually see part of it right here. And it holds a pin up for your selector. When your selector rotates around inside of there, there is a basically almost like a bearing that rides in a groove. So when you go to a certain position, it locks it in place. We don't want to lose this spring. Otherwise, you won't get that feature anymore. And I can pull that out of there, and I can show you what that piece is that if you lose it, you might have a problem. So here it is right there. It just goes into a little hole that's right here on this side, and then the spring pushes on it. So this actually rides inside this little groove right here. So when you turn this around, it locks into certain positions, and that gives you your selection right there. So we're going to put this back in right there. As you can see, I can turn it right now, and there's no resistance at all. I'm going to drop this back in on this side right here. Then our spring will normally go right in there, and it pushes on that, so you get that click, click, back and forth. So don't lose this. And if you happen to turn your gun over for any reason or move it around, those pieces will fall out, so be careful. You really don't need to move this around too much. You can do it all from kind of this position right here. So we've got the old grip off, and you don't need anything in here. You don't need the screw that's in here, so you can kind of set this to the side as well. You just need to hold on to that piece right there. We're going to remove the pieces of the stock that are left over, so we'll undo this screw. And like I said, this is the screw that you can either reuse it, or you can use that one right there. This is going to come off. We don't need it, and we're going to leave it like that. So we'll set up the new stock assembly on here. What we're going to use is this plug right here. Where the tank screwed on before, we're going to put this in. And this basically plugs this air passage so that it doesn't bleed air. When we put up the new transfer tube on here, if you didn't put the plug in, the air would just come through and then go out the back. So we want to definitely get that plug in there. Now we've got our new buffer tube and our locking ring. So you have a hole in the bottom of the tube right here, and you have a hole in the ring right there. You're going to put those two on so that they line up with each other. All right. right, so that's going to go on there like that. And then the old locking point for the old screw, you want to make sure you line up the hole in the buffer tube, the hole in the locking ring, and then we can go ahead and put on our stock. Give that a good snug. Make sure it is tight. Then we can put this on if we wanted to. Now, the first time I put this on here, it was very tight going in there. And I had to kind of work it in and make it slide around. So that might be what happens to yours too. It could be just kind of tight when you first do it. So just kind of push this up a bunch of times and get it to move around, and it will work. All right, so basically all we need to do now is assemble these sections right here. But there's one little thing that in my kit, what I got from them, there wasn't an instruction manual for it. And there is basically a plug right here. Now this plugs up the port where this is going to fit inside of here. Now you can't really grab it. It doesn't have anywhere to grab with your fingers. It's too small, I should say it's too shallow to grab it with a pair of like needle nose or anything and get it out. But it is threaded on the inside right here. So this little piece has threadings on the inside. And what you can do is I took a screw out of this parts kit right here, and I just threaded it in just enough to grab on, and then I can grab the screw and I can wiggle it out and pull the plug out. So that's our plug right there. Put that back in there. All right, so next we're gonna put all these pieces together. Now this, let me just kind of mock it up for you how it's gonna go. This is gonna go into here. This is gonna go on here. This screw is gonna come through the bottom of this and go into here and hold it all together. Then afterwards, this is going to come on, and it's gonna be held like this right here. So your transfer tube goes into the ASA like this. So when the air comes through it from the tank, it goes through the transfer tube and up into the gun. And then your screw will come through like that. And it ends up being like this. If that makes sense, with this piece being in the middle. Now, what I found with mine, and again, because there was no parts kit, I had to kind of do a couple tricks to get it to go together. So what I had to do was, if I tried to slide this transfer tube through the holes where it needs to go, it's just not quite wide enough, these holes, to fit these through with the O-rings on them. So this is what I was gonna do. I'm gonna take this one, and obviously it's gonna go in here. We all know that it's gonna fit in there just like that. I was gonna take this off. So I took the O-ring off of this piece right here. Let me take that out first. So the O-ring came off, and I did it like that. Then I ran this piece through to begin with. Like this. How did I do that? Like that. Okay, and then I put the O-ring back on. Now I can go and I can put this in here. I can drop this down like that, and I've got this piece sticking out the bottom right there. So I know that's gonna work for me. Can't forget my spring. So I put my spring back into the hole where it needs to go. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that in place. Make sure that my spring doesn't fall out when I'm trying to put this back together. I wanna make sure that spring stays in the right spot. And I can then get it all together somehow here. And I'm running into a problem where this does not want to go in there. See, my problem that I'm having is that piece doesn't want to fit in there every single time. So I'm just gonna have to try to work it in there. I'm gonna have to line it up right, make sure that everything kind of fits the way I need it to until I can get it to drop. There we go, get it to drop in. So if it doesn't go in right away the first time, it doesn't just drop right into place, don't force it. There's a reason why it's not going in or sliding into its place. Perfect. So now we're good on that. We can then take our ASA and get it in. First we're going to go into the little port right there. And then that's going to go on like that. Now we're going to slide this through. And I can only imagine that this could be kind of difficult to line up properly inside of there. But we're going to give it our best shot. Right now we're probably trying to get through the top of the grip that's inside of there and see where we end up right there. Again, this might be off center or off angle, so it's not allowing it to go through. So again, don't want to force it. I want to make sure that I'm through in all the right spots. So this could take you a couple times to kind of wiggle it around and get the feel for where it needs to sit. There we go. Now we're moving. And I'm kind of going to let this going together line it all up. So as I tighten this down, I'm kind of just compressing everything into its place, and we're ready to go. So now we can put a tank on here. We can put whatever we want on there. We want to put a big tank, little tank, doesn't matter. We've set the gun up so that we can have the air coming through the grip on the back side here. And we can run our T15 with the tank, which is what a lot of people wanted to do. They were tired of having a limited air supply on the back of their gun and not getting enough shots. They could stock up on magazines so you could shoot the gun consistently, but you just didn't have the air to shoot it. So now you can put a big tank on there. You can make it have a little bit more longevity for the day, so when you're out there playing. So this is the T15 ASA kit with stock. It's available through the website. Order yours now through ansgear.com.